Hi, and welcome to the Wired Wisdom. I am really happy, as you can hear from the introduction, I am not alone today because I have a special guest called Borys Ulanenko. Boris will be here with me for a couple of minutes, and I hope you will like what you will hear and see. Boris has 11 years in taxation and is founder of ArmsLength.ai, which is a platform introducing AI solution to complex tax challenges, streamlining data analysis, and enhancing decision-making accuracy. Also, Boris worked with ABDIA, if I'm spelling it correctly, and has also some entrepreneurial ventures. For example, he also drives education in international tax, founding Star Tax Education, and so on. So, hello, Boris. Welcome to the Wired Wisdom podcast. I am happy to have you here today.
Hello. Hi, Jan. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So, Boris, tell us, I mentioned in the introduction a little bit about taxation and so on, but I'm not sure that, I mentioned it or explained it correctly. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you actually do?
Yeah, sure. So by my background, I'm a tax professional. So I've been studying economics and finance in the university. And then I started my career in advisory, in tax advisory. So there are those people who are compiling your tax returns as people, as individuals, but also as companies. And then companies have much more reporting requirements and obligations. So they need to prepare a lot of different tax forms and tax reports. And that's what I was working on. So I've been working with the whole career. So first as an advisor in an advisory firm, in professional services firm. Then I moved to work for a multinational company, which also needed to prepare different tax reporting forms. And I've been preparing those forms effectively most of my career. And at some point of time, I realized that technology is something I'm a little bit more excited about than just tax. And then I moved on to work for the technology company called IBEDIA, which you pronounced correctly in the introduction. That was a traditional technology firm serving largest companies, helping building some tools and products for them to be more effective, to prepare those compliance documents more effectively. And then with AI revolution, I shifted the gear and moved on to build my own AI startup. I think just a couple of things to understand about my focus in tax specifically. If you look at your typical tax return, your typical tax form, like in Poland, we have a personal income tax return, like in most countries, you as an individual need to fill it in every year, like put some numbers about how much you made, how much were your costs, how much tax you need to pay. Those are typical like tables, right? So those are like numbers with tables with numbers. You need to put some numbers. They should be accurate. If they are not, then tax authorities will come and put you in jail. I was working in a little bit different tax area where we were not just preparing tables, but we were also writing a lot of stories, basically. So we had to write how business operates, how the company's business works, what different companies in the business do, what different people do, because this is important also from tax perspective. This is what tax authorities also need to know. So that's the focus that I had. This is what is called transfer pricing. This is where you need to explain how companies price their goods or services, whatever they sell. You need to explain that to tax authorities. That's why my background, even though it's tax, it was a lot about writing texts, which is a little bit different from traditional tax. And I think from that's where you can start getting this connection with generative AI that we are discussing primarily today. Generative AI is especially good at writing texts or analyzing texts, summarizing them, slicing them, do sensitivity analysis, etc. And that's why our profession, transfer pricing within tax, is benefiting from generative AI more than other tax areas, right? We are something like lawyers, where lawyers also have a lot of text. They write those contracts, they write memos, they write read court decisions, and this is all text, unstructured data. That's where generative AI is very powerful. If you look at the top startups in tax and legal, let's put it like that, most of the companies are law firms, And then transfer pricing is like really small comparing to all the law, but it's very much benefiting from generative AI. And that's why I decided to start this company, to maximize the value of generative AI for my profession and for my market, basically.
Mhm. Okay, I just made some notes, and I'm just thinking, like you mentioned at the beginning, AI revolution, and I hear already that you successfully transitioned from, as you said, like human work to AI-driven work, or generative AI, as we call it. So, can you tell us and to the listeners, like how you implemented that AI and how you build up your product with AI?
Yeah, sure. My product, if you know a little bit of generative AI and you use like ChatGPT, then my product is relatively simple. So um, it's a fixed interface which asks the user about particular data, like what is your company name, and you just type the name. What is the business that this company is involved in, and you put the business. And sometimes you just type, sometimes you have a drop down selection, and then you select a few parameters basically. And those parameters, like, they become very transfer pricing specific, right? So they're like very technical for our profession, not for AI but for our profession. And then you can also give my product some extra unstructured information, like attach a file or put an email correspondence with your client, etc., etc. Then when you click on analyze or generate, there is a model behind, which is primarily based on GPT-4, that takes those structured data points and the text and information that the user provided, and gives it to GPT effectively with certain prompt engineering behind and certain models like optimized for a particular task. And then you're getting a particular output that is useful in your transfer pricing project. So, for example, you need to prepare a piece of documentation for transfer pricing compliance. You give a few parameters, give raw data, and then it writes to you it in a structured and organized way, focusing on particular areas, etc. So you can think of it as like very optimized ChatGPT for transfer pricing use case.
Okay. And what do you think, how much time it actually saves to the user to use AI instead of, filling up everything, as you said before, like manually?
Yeah, it saves a lot of time. And the reason primarily for that is we had to spend a lot of time before AI to actually write those narratives and stories. And now AI, but if you look at like at this whole story that you're writing manually as a human, most of it is like relatively repetitive, and it always follows the same structure, and there are only few decisions that you really make, and the rest is just just a text basically. And then AI really saves you a lot of time on actually writing this piece. It doesn't save you time on like knowing those details, because details is something you still have to provide. You still need to know the facts of this case, particular one, or documentation you're preparing. But then all the writing is done by AI. And it's not just about like saving time, because saving time is important. And you can say like on a typical task, you can save up to 3 hours, 4 hours of work on drafting it. It's also about accuracy and not forgetting certain pieces. When you give it to a human, then of course, in ideal scenario, human will have a good template, will have a checklist to ensure that everything is covered in the document, and will follow a structured process to prepare a good output. But like we know that humans don't often do that, right? They don't have time for that. They like forget things. And then AI can do it in a very structured and organized way and be much more consistent than actually a human. So there are several benefits that it unlocks.
Yes, exactly. It's checks, it's much more actually beneficial to sometimes use AI exactly to, as you said, like to not skip anything, to follow through the process. As it's very important in a world of technology and so on. So, Boris, I'm just curious. Like you mentioned that, okay, you work with the taxation and transfer pricing and so on, and I'm just curious, like how did you actually jump into this AI world? Like, I know that it started a couple of years ago, and the early adopters could use the early actually models, but I think
Mhm.
everything actually changed when ChatGPT and GPT 3 or actually 3 last year in December was introduced, right? So tell us a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, I was pretty enthusiastic about AI for about 3 or 4 years. I think once I was following it lightly 4 years ago, I started doing that. How I discovered it was actually pretty interesting. So I started my first side hustle business when I was still working for a large corporation, and I decided that I will create an online course about transfer pricing to prepare people for professional exams. That was my first business. And I've built the course, and it's really good course. It's very comprehensive. It prepares you for the exam very well. Then I launched it, and then I discovered no one is buying it. Because I totally didn't think about sales and marketing at all. Like, how am I going to distribute it and convince people? And then I was like scratching my head as like, what should I do? I used LinkedIn pretty extensively back then and built the audience over time. That was one of the big distribution channels for my online course. But the other one was obviously I was exploring SEO and generally digital marketing through traditional, let's say, means, not social media. And then I was like, okay, how do I need to write blogs, right? Like, blog is something I need to write. I'm pretty good writer because I wrote like a textbook and wrote the course, but I didn't know like what to write about, and how to write it. And you need to do this consistently for it to make any difference. And I discovered, I think it was, so I discovered GPT-3, the initial raw model. Like, no one knew about it back then. It was not conversational GPT like we have now in ChatGPT. It was just a raw GPT-3 model. And I was playing with it, and it was like really not very good. But it already gave me a flavor of like, there is something there, right? And then I discovered, I think Jasper was already around back then, and I was starting playing with those different tools in marketing. So like, marketing was the entry point for me in AI. I had the problem like, how do I do my blog at scale? I didn't really use it too much because the tools were not really good at that point of time. But that was the point when I discovered it, that it exists, it can help, it can do certain things. So that was how I discovered it, and obviously, like, once GPT-4 the ChatGPT went live, it was still GPT 3.5. I was extremely enthusiastic because I recognized like that's what I was waiting for, right? Like, I've seen all those tools evolving; they were not really good, and this seems to be the real tool that really makes the difference, really can help me in so many areas of my life. And I was very enthusiastic about GPT 3.5 and ChatGPT. I started being a super user of it, basically. So I used it like every day for everything I could think of in sales and marketing. I was working for like just full-time product management / product marketing job in my career. So course was just like a side hustle. And I started like trying to use it like here and there, like try to do transfer pricing project, try to do some product marketing video script, try to write a Python small script. Like, I'm not a coder by my background, but I was just like, having some basic coding skills. And I've seen it like actually brings value in most of those areas. And that kept me very excited and made me someone who uses it every day. Yeah, sorry. So that's how I became AI enthusiastic.
Okay, actually, I was like quite listening. I could see myself in your story. My first experience with AI was 2018, and it was text-to-speech transition, right? I actually had the first blog online, and I wanted to try a podcast which is not talk or done by me. I wanted to test AI possibilities in 2018. It was like pretty basic. So the tool called play.ht was helping me out with that one. So, and then when you said that you actually started to use it like almost every day for everything you could think of, from SEO to digital marketing and so on. And this is how I did it actually in 2021, because it was before ChatGPT in 2023. Sorry, 23 was introduced. So my huge boom with AI started in 2022. I used the Jasper. I actually tried the trial the time, and then I jumped to Write Sonic because it was a lot cheaper than Jasper. as you said, it was like the first, like you could write an article and actually build up some keywords into it, and you had your digital marketing strategy, but it was not conversational. And this is
Yeah.
what I see as a big benefit, like to use ChatGPT now as a conversational assistant or a tool.
Mhm.
And you also said that you use ChatGPT, like you are a power user of ChatGPT and so on. Like, is this the only tool you are using, or you use something else as well?
Yeah, I think that's ultimately the tool I'm using on everyday basis actively. On other tools that I've been using and still use from time to time, those are things like Midjourney for image generation. Before DALL-E 3, that was a better model, I think, overall. Then I discovered this tool. I don't remember the name. I need to find it, which is extremely cool. It's AI powered, uses GPT in the background, but it combines CEO optimization with GPT. So what it basically does, it analyzes your website, it then compares your pages with competitor pages, and then compares them, and then identifies why that page, the competitor's page, may be ranking better than yours. What are the gaps in your content? And it suggests you like cover those additional points in your blog post, for example, and here is how you can answer that questions, and it generates you like particular pieces of text you can paste in your blog post, for example. That's very useful tool. It's still like GPT based, but it combines other interesting good things like SEO and comparison analysis, and then GPT is just like and it uses GPT to understand the content too. So that's very useful too. But again, like it uses GPT, right, as a background. So that's why I'm always defaulting to ChatGPT for most of the uses. And then I'm just using some more specialized tools which combine a lot of use cases, and GPT is just one of them.
I'm pretty much interested in this SEO tool because it sounds interesting. I know that some of them, like SEMrush and Ahrefs, can figure out the gap between the sites, but doing it with AI actually might be much more faster. And then when we analyze all the competitions on the world, then we can like build up websites which are like nailing it.
Yeah, it's called
and
Rival Flow. I'll send you a link.
oh,
You can check
okay,
it.
perfect. Awesome. Then I will include the link also into the description of this podcast,
Yes,
so the
it's
so the
really good.
listeners and cool,
Try it.
so they can check it out as well. Cool. Thank you for the recommendation. And so we know about you that you do transfer pricing and focus on attacks and so on, and you use ChatGPT. What is your favorite actually way to use ChatGPT at daily basis?
Yeah, there are several things that I do on the daily basis. So and it's in different areas of my life, right? So when I was building the initial version of my product, ArmsLength.ai, for transfer pricing advisors, I've been using ChatGPT extensively to write the code because I'm not a coder myself. I know a little bit of it, and I had this when I started my business, or when I decided I want to build this product. I have various options, like should I go no code versus code? Do I need to hire someone? Do I need to find a freelancer? Like, what do I really like? What are my options? What should I do? And then I started using, that was the point when I already used ChatGPT pretty extensively, and GPT-4 was already out. And I also had access to GPT-4 with 32,000 context window, not through ChatGPT, but also as a direct model through OpenAI and Microsoft Azure. So I've been able to build the whole code of my product, the initial version of it, with ChatGPT. So I was asking it to write me pieces of code. I was testing it. It took too much time, obviously, comparing to if I would hire someone. But I ultimately built the minimum viable product, which looked well and worked, which was the most important at that point, without involving any developers. That was a
Okay,
remarkable
that
thing.
sounds
Like
cool.
I'm still amazed by the fact that it's possible in 2023. It was in 2023 still. I've built a pretty good thing with just using ChatGPT. That's where I use it a lot. I use it like on a daily basis. If I calculate the tokens I've used, it was like probably hundreds of dollars I've spent on it, because I was not using just ChatGPT. I was also going through the direct model. I needed longer context window to put larger pieces of code. So that's one thing. You can really like build some nice, cool tools, especially if like it's not too complicated with ChatGPT nowadays. Really encouraging everyone to try. But something like step back, you need to take at least a short like Python for everybody course on Coursera to do it, because then it will at least make some sense to you what you're doing with ChatGPT. Just using ChatGPT without knowing anything will be probably not great. That's one area. The second business area, so I'll tell now the business area and then another personal area. So another business area is everything related to content and marketing. I think the best and the most often used use case for me is content repurposing. So where you, for example, recorded the YouTube video and then you turn it into blog post and then you turn it into LinkedIn post, or vice versa, right? So you can repurpose the content very well, a little bit of prompt engineering or just like playing a little bit with ChatGPT, and you can get to what you need. Writing YouTube video descriptions, writing some emails for my clients, writing newsletters for my users, etc., etc. So I don't really I still think you need to like put those seeds of thoughts, like valuable and value adding thoughts and insights that you have as a professional in this particular area, like marketing or transfer pricing, it doesn't matter. But then ChatGPT can help you like to put that in the right format and then expand the formats, like and build different formats out of it. I think I use it on a daily basis. It really saves me a lot of ton of time and helps a lot. And then on a personal one, which is pretty interesting, with especially so when we have these custom GPTs, I've built a simple. So I've been playing with custom GPTs. They are not extremely useful for my like professional use case, it seems, for now. But I've built a simple custom GPT that helps me track calories that I'm eating every day.
Okay, that sounds
So
interesting. I know that in January, sorry to interrupt, many people actually try to lose weight, and the calorie calculating actually GPT might be interesting. Yeah, tell us
yes,
more.
it's very cool. It's very cool because what you can do is, so I've been using it already for I think 3 to 4 months. So I've tested it; it works well. So what it does, it's basically like a chatbot where you just put when you eat something, you just say I've ate X of like 200 grams, or a cup of I had a cup of cacao, or I had a steak, a ribeye steak, 200 grams, and then it's prompted and programmed in a way where it will then like break it down in number of calories, proteins, and the rest of the stuff, nutritional values. We'll compare it to your total today's intake, so it knows the day when you type it, and it will tell you like how much you've eaten already, how much is left for you to eat to hit your goals, right? Like your goal is, let's say,
Okay, okay,
2,500 calories.
that's really interesting.
Yeah, and of course, and I've also like in the custom GPTs you can add knowledge like as a file. So I have certain foods that I eat every day, like standard. I like eat for breakfast. I eat literally like almost the same thing every day, and I have my standard protein shake, and I have some certain dishes that I cook from time to time every time. So I just added those to knowledge, GPT's knowledge, and then I don't need to like type detailed like what I have eaten. I can just tell it I had my standard buckwheat breakfast, and then it knows what I mean, right? So that helps also a lot to save time on this. And you can like do things with ChatGPT since we've got vision now. You can make a photo of nutritional facts on the package. So when I go to like when I buy in Lidl, I buy like cottage cheese or something. I would just make a photo of it, of the nutritional facts, and say I ate like 100 grams of this. Take data from the photo, and then it will take all the details from the photo. So I don't need to type every time. It saves a lot of time on calorie tracking. Pretty interesting use case
Definitely.
too.
And can I jump in quickly? Like, it's pretty interesting to me. I'm also like interested in healthy eatings, and I watch every YouTube documents and so on when it comes out. And I'm just thinking, like, first of all, is that GPT online? Can I use it as well, or is blocked for you only?
No, it's private GPT for like I didn't make it public, but it's very simple. So I can just share, the prompt that I'm using, an example of knowledge base, and you can build your own. I think the value of building your own is that you can customize the amount of calories in the system prompt, basically, and upload your own recipes that you're making on a daily basis, basically. And then I was like, for the first months, I was updating those recipes, adding new and new every time, so that it knows better what I eat.
That's really 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 nice to hear that you can actually build something like that. Before, a couple of years back, I don't know, like 10 or 12 years ago, I had an Excel sheet, and filling out, okay, now I had one slice of whole wheat bread with I don't know, ham, and then a slice of cheese, and then I had to manually like figure out, like, okay, from the other sheet, like how much calories and how much proteins and so on it had. And now we have GPT which can do it for you. Then, like, pretty interesting. And also one thing about these nutritional facts, like, is it that you had to upload the library with the knowledge inside, or it actually pretty quickly searches online somewhere, and when you make a photo of, for example, I don't know, Greek yogurt, then it will know that is a Greek yogurt, or you need to fill it in?
No, it knows. So if it depends on how precise you want to be. So if you want to be precise about this particular Greek yogurt, the best case is you will make a photo of nutritional facts, because every Greek yogurt is a little bit different. But the other option is you just tell it, I ate Greek yogurt, or make a photo of it and say I ate like 100 grams or 200 grams. And then it will tell you, nutritional facts can vary, but on average, Greek yogurt would be this, and then it will give you the results. So sometimes I'm trying to be pretty precise. That's why I'm trying to make photos of nutritional facts and measuring things a little bit more. But you can basically like decide on how precise you want to be yourself, and it will help you in any case.
Okay, that's really awesome to I can tell you that you actually are advanced user of AI and GPT, especially with building up. For the people who don't know, or the listeners who don't know, actually, when you buy the pro subscription on ChatGPT, you are able to create your own GPTs. Now you can like do it any in few minutes, as Boris is saying, that you just need to know the prompts, and then the first version of the prompting and codes. And also I'm thinking that is a pretty nice way of leveraging AI in the field I would not think of. So thanks for sharing, Boris. I'm always focusing on one, which is digital marketing and social media and so on, but nutrition actually and health is another way to go. Glad to hear that.
Yeah, there are so many use cases which we don't even think about yet. And
exactly.
I think like every of those use cases is a potential business and potential product. Like if I would have time and motivation, you can try to build a real product out of those small ideas, right? You can build the actual nice app for people to track calories with AI. And AI is like not necessarily like the 90% of it. It can be like 50% of it. And if you build a nice interface and know what user problem is, then AI can really make it much more useful for the user, like calorie tracking, for example.
Exactly. And, as a digital marketer, I was already thinking like how to sell this product, like what is the best way to use it. But the one thing I would actually expect from AI is I'm a lazy person, and I don't like to write down again, like 10 years ago, I ate this and that. I would like to just make a photo of the food I have on a plate, and it does everything for me. So then at the end of the day, I just make 10 photos of each dish and each glass of water. And at the evening, I have a full report, which is saying like, okay, you had your dose of proteins, you had your dose of carbs, and you drank 2 liters of water. Is that possible?
I think it is. Yeah, I think it is.
Okay, and this is the product I like.
Yes, for sure. You can build it. I'm pretty sure. I think like the problem may be a little bit like if you just make photos and don't weight anything, the accuracy will be not as good as will be good for some people, because it's a little bit difficult to estimate the weight of the food, because the weight matters, not like how the volume basically. But it can get you to pretty accurate, I think, measurements, especially if you. I think what I would start is like, can I build custom GPT that will, based on, let's say, 3 photos, of a food, maybe I will make like a photo of my dish like this, maybe from this angle and from that angle. Like if I put 3 photos, can it accurately estimate the weight and the nutritional effects of the food? I would compare that to actual measurements, and then I would see if it holds. And if it's more or less okay, then I would continue building something around it.
Okay, this sounds really good. I was actually thinking, that somebody is having, I don't know, blueberry on a plate, and then it zooms in and the blueberry pops up, like 10 centimeter blueberry. Would it count like one piece of blueberry and, I don't know, 5 grams or 50 grams of blueberry?
Yeah,
So
that's what you need to explore. But for example, you
exactly.
can I think like what you can do, what I tried ChatGPT doing, I mean vision part of it, you can have like a box of I don't know, or a coin, right? Like you can take like 5 zloty coin and put it next to the dish and then make a photo. And then here is the 5 zloty coin, here is the dish. Then it will have a better feeling of measurement, for example. That can be then option.
Okay, awesome. So we'll take this offline, Boris. We'll build up the product still this year, yeah?
Yes. Launching year.
Awesome. Okay, good. So I do the marketing and you do everything else and we have a business.
Yeah.
Okay, good, Boris. And when you say and we see that you and we started with AI a little bit earlier, you went more into depth, you are building your own GPTs and so on. Like, how do you see this whole AI world to develop from now on? Like, where do you see this in 1 year and then let's say in 5 years?
Yeah, that's for difficult to predict, obviously, because things are unfolding very fast. I think I had this feeling early on. I had almost existential crisis because like once I've seen ChatGPT, especially GPT-4 model, I was like, this thing is smarter than most people I know and can do many tasks better than humans. And I've been working for large corporations, and I know that like if you apply this technology to large corporation and implement it properly, then like half of the people are just like not needed in a year or maybe 2 maximum. I was like a little bit like really scared about that, and I had this feeling that I need to tell everyone like, guys, you need to some guys need to change their job as soon as possible and to learn something else. Some people just need to really like invest heavily into learning ChatGPT and so things. However, it seems that the pace at which this technology is being implemented into the real like business applications is relatively slow. Corporations and larger organizations, which actually drive the most of the employment for people and generate most of the GDP, are very slow at implementing it. So I'm not too much concerned now that like it will really quickly change a lot of things on that front. However, that's why like for those people who work in those organizations, I would say just like be aware, try to use it everywhere you can, be up to date with new tools, try applying it to your daily tasks. It will make your job more enjoyable. You will be more productive. You don't even have to tell everyone that you're using it. You can save like few hours of time and just spend it with your kids or go to the gym. Then so like for those bigger organizations, it will be slow and it will be more careful. But what I already see changing changing a lot is I think digital marketing is like obviously was already disrupted pretty heavily on things and everything like freelance market, fast moving market, startup market, all of those, like if you're working in that field, those fields, you already feel it. So a lot of freelancers lost their jobs just because like people don't buy content anymore, like at that scale and that type of content that people were making money on. People like number of people who, if you look at Fiverr statistics and WeWork statistics, which they publish sometimes, the revenue made by freelancers in visual design areas also went down substantially thanks to Midjourney and DALL-E 3. So those markets that are very fast, more transactional, will experience significant or already experiencing. The rest will be slower. But it really depends on like what technology we will see in the next couple of years. So If the pace of GPT and other AI models will keep at the current, so the pace will be the same, like it will be very fast, new, more powerful models that are doing more and more. And I think we don't basically know, but if the pace will be the same, maybe in 2 years we all are obsolete. But again, I'm pretty okay now with this, because I think that it won't really happen, because larger organizations and governments are so slow that, and people are just like slow. I met a colleague of mine a few months ago, and I was like so excited about ChatGPT, like I'm using it here and there, and like you can just do your work in like 1 hour instead of 10 hours, because I knew what the person was doing as a job, right? So like I knew exactly what the person was, and he was like, I never even used it, and no one in my work is using it. And I was like, that's crazy, right? Because you're like, when you're focusing on AI, you're like living in this bubble of AI Twitter, AI YouTube, and you're talking to people who are around it. But then the real world is like doesn't even care about it and doesn't know about it. But they will be hit by it anyway, because it's so powerful economic force. Firms will just want to make more profit. AI is a way to make more profit. They will implement AI. It's like it's decided basically.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And just, talking about the whole freelance market, in digital marketing, I started with everything. I built up my own website. I tried to, be a graphic designer for a while. Then I used AI in digital agency for content creation, like writing all the things. I used to hire actually freelancers to do the job for me as well, like copywriters and so on. And now I don't do that anymore. It's just ChatGPT is much more cheaper, and you can have a pretty nice actually results when it comes to either graphic design or logo creation or articles. First of
Yeah.
all, second of all, I would say that I agree with you in a way that majority of the people is just discovering that some AI is popping up. I see many people on LinkedIn already, being ahead of me as well, and saying, okay, we started with ChatGPT and content creation about AI and ChatGPT in December last year, and now they have, I don't know, 100,000 followers on LinkedIn, teaching people how to build prompts and how to do prompt engineering in a good way and so on. And as you say, I just recently saw a chart which actually described that in Eastern Europe or East Central Europe, we are way behind of discovering AI. Like people are now just getting interested in, okay, ChatGPT, what's that? Like, let me Google that, like, oh, it's AI and you can use it for this and that. And it's really happening. And a lot of people are actually using just, like trying to use it. That's
Yeah.
why I also agree with you when you said about learning. I was a guest recently on other podcast of a good friend of mine, and I've actually jumped a little bit into this trend. And I said, and you said it as well, that people are trying or need to learn, like prompt engineering. What is actually a prompt? They need to start with 101 trainings, and that's also a good potential if somebody is listening to us, like and you have some spare time, and then you can build up your own course, using custom ChatGPT and so on to teach people how to do it. I think it's a vast actually business opportunity as well, like create online courses on ChatGPT and Midjourney, for example. And last but not least, I also agree with the corporations. Although I know that Microsoft recently launched the Copilot option, right? Integration between Teams and Excel and PowerPoint and so on. And some corporations are already pushing people to use it, pushing in a brackets. They are not really pushing people, but they are, like trying to put a pressure on the people to use Copilot within their daily job. Not sure why. Probably they want to analyze like how much time and how much money we can save, like using AI. That's one. But those companies are mostly already technical, companies or AI driven companies. They are not, I don't know, companies selling shoes yet. Although there probably are some companies which are implementing the AI and we do not know about it so much. So they do not talk
Yeah.
about it so often, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I think that there is a tremendous value that those corporations have to be unlocked with AI. It's just a matter of time. And like that's one of the lucrative business ideas too. I spoke to a few folks like that. So they know, like, there are just 1-2 people. Sometimes those are like product management and some developer, for example, or someone from the with business experience and with technology experience. Just 2-3 people, agencies. What they do, they target those corporations and they tell them, we can help you implement AI in your process, in any process that you need. We can do the workshop for you to explain what AI can show, can unlock. We can do some brainstorming with you to see those areas where AI can help. We can build a small minimum viable prototype of a product that will help you, just your specific use case. And then that's like also, and corporations, if you are able to unlock a big value for them, that value is really huge. For example, take a simple example. Every corporation has a team of, I mean, depending on the size, but like from 100 to like 1,000 or even few thousand people whose job is processing invoices from their, let's say, vendors, right? So they get invoice, scanned document, and then they type some details in the table. They do some low-level analysis of that invoice, do some qualification, and those like hundreds and sometimes thousands of people who just sit every day do this in one organization. Imagine you just like ChatGPT can do this work. Especially if you like customize it a little bit and build around it, so you know a little bit of technology and other products, you can build a very specific product which can automate a work of like few hundred people. And few hundred people means like millions and millions of dollars per year. And that's just for one company. So if you can discover those cases, you can sell to those companies and you can build something around those cases. That's also a pretty interesting area to explore.
Definitely. I definitely agree. And you see, and I always try to, work with the small clients, but probably I will shift now to corporations because they are a little bit slower, as you say, and they will need help. And this is how I actually see, now I'm just thinking, the way how the whole digital marketing will go. Like we can now automate advertising. You can build a GPT integration or use GPT-4 integration to enhance your advertising. So every dollar you spend, or every euro or zloty or whatever Hungarian forint you spend on advertising, it's well spent money. And as you say, invoicing is one thing, and I believe that corporations can leverage. I'm coming from training environment. When you would tell me in 2012 and 13, when I was in a peak of the job, that I do not need to spend time to analyze how people are actually, doing trainings in the stores at the time. And I could use ChatGPT to automate, to do an integration between all the training platforms. And I would have a nice overview like, okay, this person spent 5 minutes on onboarding, then he skipped. He lost interest in this particular field, but he was interested in this one. And then we can shift, the training and so on. That would be amazing. And this is how I also see it in the corporate world, that, as you say, with the months coming, the AI will be introduced in more and more fields, starting into most obvious, I would say, which is automatization potential, or having potential to be automated, like accounting, HR, training and development, and so on.
Yeah, for sure.
And according to graphic designers, I just read a book yesterday that in that book, the book is from 2022, and they said that the graphic designer job will be completely erased by 2050. So graphic designers have like 25 years of living. I'm not sure. I would say that in some part it will be erased more quicker, because we talk about GPT-4 and so on. And from my personal view and the information I'm getting, OpenAI is already working on GPT-5, right? Sam Altman already mentioned that they are doing it. And also, I'm really interested to see, for example, the Ultra Bard, or Lambda from actually Gemini from Google, what that can do, in comparison to GPT-4 and so on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like the problem of thinking how many years is left for a profession is that we're focusing too much on like the end point and the current point, but we need to think also like what we'll be having in the meantime. And the graphic designer job in the meantime may become worse and worse, basically, because the problem is that it's just like, well, obviously Midjourney or DALL-E do not replace graphic design as a whole, right? It just starts just taking piece by piece with every update, with every new use case discovered, etc. And then you, as a number of graphic designers stays roughly the same in the short term, right? So the number of graphic designers is staying the same. And then they start to compete for smaller and smaller amount of work that they need to do. And the requirement for that work may be even growing, right? Because you need to compete with AI, you need to do better job. And you need, since you're competing for smaller amount of job, you need to reduce prices also. So as a result, like, yes, the job will be fully eliminated, maybe like never or very long time ago, but maybe like in 3 years, it's such a bad job to have because they don't put you a lot, and you compete with a lot of great talent around the world for your gigs. Not great place to be. That's what I'm like. You just need to think strategically about where you are now.
Definitely agree. So tell us, Boris, we already talked about arm's length at the beginning, and your company, like, so how people can find you, actually, how they can reach out to you if they are interested in tax transferring and tax solutions.
The best way is on LinkedIn. You would just type my first name and last name, because on LinkedIn I'm pretty active. That's my Twitter. Because my community is on LinkedIn, transfer pricing and tax people don't see it on Twitter. That's why I had to choose LinkedIn as my main platform. In terms of the website, www.armslength.ai is my website of my company. It's pretty product focused. You can check those two places.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. It was a lot of information. Thank you very much, Boris, for being the first guest on my podcast. It will be, like, I will print out the golden button from YouTube once we reach 100,000 followers and viewers. But you will be always there as a first and special guest on the podcast, The Wired Wisdom. So thank you very much for the listeners, guys, and have a nice day. And whatever you do, like, enjoy. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.